Cradle, a triolet. The cradle of all, the living, the dead, where Sol and Lahana hold thrones, where many a sacrifice leached earth red. The cradle of all, the living, the dead, Sol guarantees bounty and harvest that fed we worshippers at these stones. The cradle of all, the living, the dead, where Sol and Lahana hold thrones. The cradle of all, the living, the dead, by light of Lahana is shown. She makes both nightly and monthly her tread. The cradle of all, the living, the dead, the circle by which our women have bled as soon as their childness has flown. The cradle of all, the living, the dead, by light of Lahana is shown. The cradle of all, the living, the dead, by moonlight in winter winds blown. We dance to Lahana with white robe shed, the cradle of all, the living, the dead, then filed down the causeway by elders led, who chanted in hypnotic tones. The cradle of all, the living, the dead, by moonlight in winter winds blown. The cradle of all, the living, the dead, where no one is ever alone, where ancestors lived and ancestors bred. The cradle of all, the living, the dead, the spirits and souls to the netherworld fled, we buried in barrows their bones. The cradle of all, the living, the dead, where no one is ever alone. The cradle of all, the living, the dead, where no one is ever alone.